My viewing experience of the first episode of Bon Appetit, Your Majesty was fantastic. A fun, humorous show that didn't take itself all too seriously. I loved it. Episodes 1 to 5 are a perfect mix of lightheartedness and moments of seriousness, leaning more strongly towards the lighthearted part. Moments like their bizarre first meeting, his declaration of his kingly status and her scoffing at it, him eventually appointing her as the head cook to the surprise of the entire court, her not falling for the other cook's antics, and so many others, made these first 5 episodes basically perfect. Episode 6 to 9, with the coming of the Chinese envoy and then the cooking competition, kind of dragged on for longer than I wanted, especially because there is no real outcome or tension. But since it was in a similar vein to the show keeping things not too serious, I wasn't very mad at it. Episode 10 was when the show started losing me. By episode 11, I was completely detached from the happenings in the show. Instead of enjoying it as I had previously, I was very detached and just observing to see how things would go, and yearning for the show to come to an end. I was very happy when it finally ended, a statement I thought I would never utter.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
For romance, it felt quite one-sided. Over the course of the drama, we see the king's interest piqued when her kindness reminds him of his mother. On the chef's side, though, I'm not very convinced of her romantic feelings. I think she's come to like him as a person, like in a my boss is grumpy, but he has a heart of gold underneath all of that kind of way. What I don't believe is that she has romantic feelings for him, because the show never shows us that. All of the time that they wasted on the cooking competition could have been cut down and would have been given just a few episodes of the two of them really getting to interact with each other and for us to see their feelings develop for each other. I thought the show was brilliant presenting the male lead as a tyrant, but not lingering on that fact. Because the show treats it mostly as a setup for his character and then kind of pushes it to the background. Here's where I have a problem. After keeping things pretty light and surface level, the drama suddenly flips and becomes serious in the last 3 episodes. Suddenly, we have a coup, we have people dying, there are betrayals, and all sorts of things happening. And it got me thinking, because if you shifted focus just a little bit, the people planning the coup and wanting to take over a tyrannical king would actually be the heroes. Because consider this, if our male lead was in this group and there was another king with the same characteristics as he, and this group wanted to take down that tyrannical king, we would all be on board. But because our male lead is the king, we sort of have to bend the rules for him a little bit. Firstly, we have our female lead as a good backup. She's all good, she's very kind-hearted, she's nice to everyone around her. And so you root for her, and by extension, you root for the male lead. Secondly, and most importantly, our good old friend childhood trauma makes a comeback. This time, childhood trauma with the mother.
Oh, cry me a fucking river, Barry!
But in case this doesn't do it for you and you're still divided on how you feel about the previously tyrannical king, they have to make the group of people who want to take him down appear much worse than whatever his past was. So, they kill the dowager and other people, but just for good measures, just to make them that much more evil. They add a special bonus so that there is no question that in comparison to what the king had done in the past, these are the real baddies. They say for the sake of the country and for the sake of the people, they want to take down the bad king, but actually, they didn't have pure intentions. They actually wanted the throne for themselves, and they're eventually going to kill Prince Jinmyong. See, they're really, really bad people. I didn't hate the tactic. I didn't love it either. I just thought, oh, this is how they decided to play things out.
Not bad, but not good.
They also do this funny thing with Prince Chesan, where previously, like in the past episodes, he was fine with sending people to kill the king. He was okay doing it from a distance and not getting his hands dirty. But suddenly, at the last episode, he now has this burning urge to do the job himself in close quarters. And we know they do this just so they can put him close to the king and have the king kill him and so on, whatever. In the end, okay, this drama was okay. I did not love the ending. I did not hate the ending. It was just there, I guess. And that's how I feel now. So I would rate it a 6.5 or a 10. Not bad, I guess. Beyond the Bar was one of the more enjoyable dramas this year for me. It hooked me from the first episode, and by the end, I still have good feelings towards it. On the positive side, I like that one of the overarching points of the drama is that the law isn't necessarily on the side of the morally upright or on the side of the oppressed. The law favors whichever side can prove that they are more in line with the law. So there's a case where a man collapses on the plane. A female doctor who is present rushes over to him, tries to help him, administers drugs, but unfortunately he eventually dies. The family of the man sues the doctor, and then we get to find out that in the past, this particular doctor had refused to treat him because this man was a publicly known pedophile who had molested one of the little girls that she had to treat. So it becomes a case of, did the doctor actually try to help him on the plane, or did she intentionally right? Morally speaking, it would be fantastic if, in the case that she was found guilty, she was instead given a Medal of Honor, a statue built for her for getting rid of trash. But the law doesn't quite work like that, does it? There is another case where a boy is almost hit by a truck. He isn't. But then something strange happens where the boy starts displaying symptoms consistent with someone who was hit by a vehicle. The parents eventually sue the driver for causing the distress that made the boy start displaying these symptoms. This case is eventually resolved when the ULIM squad, who are representing the driver, prove that the boy's symptoms came on not because of the distress of almost being hit, but he was simply responding to his mother's distress of seeing her son almost being hit. So kind of like the fault is not with the driver, but with the mom for overreacting. The case of the pedophile and the doctor is also somewhat satisfactorily resolved, where a lot of the prosecution and the witnesses that should have stood against the doctor are kind of like, even if she did it, so what? These two have a great working relationship. They are very supportive of each other as friends. What is not to like about the two of them becoming a couple? I love Minjung. I love her confidence at work. I love the way she kicked out the woman her ex-husband had cheated on her with. I love how she kicked out her ex and his mother. I also understand her hesitance towards starting a relationship with Jinu, considering what had happened to her in the past. But that's fine, because Jinu has enough confidence in his feelings for both of them. The acting is also good. Everyone gives a solid performance. I enjoy the mentor-mentee dynamic between Hyomin and Sokun. I also love the resolution of Sokun's previous marriage. On to the not-so-good stuff. I have 3 main qualms. First, they dumb down other characters to make Hyomin look smarter. They do this in the interview sequence, and then eventually with her fellow first years. I was not impressed with this tactic. Having a good number of intellectually sound characters, but then having your main character rise above that is the best way to present your main character as being smart, and I will die and decompose on this hill. Secondly, if If it comes down to having drama or just being logical but unexciting, this story always chooses over-dramatizing things. A case that perfectly exemplifies this is the case where there's two identical paintings and there's dispute as to who's the original artist and who plagiarized the other. This case progresses well until we get to the courtroom, and as Hyomin begins to question her client, who she is defending, we discover that this is the first time they are actually meeting, and we discover at the same time as her that this client is intellectually challenged. I want you to let that sink in. A lawyer and their client are meeting for the first time in the courtroom.
Sorry for the laugh.
No lawyer would be dim-witted enough to not prepare their client before a hearing. And you're telling me they never even met? There was no communication between the two? Okay. It's also blatantly obvious. One of the first points that Hyomin should have brought up was artistic style. Just a comparison of her client's previous paintings and the one in question would have been a big step in the right direction towards establishing her client as the original artist, especially because Mr. Big Artist over here had a completely different style prior to this painting in question. After observing the way they handled some other cases, I have to assume that the only reason they let things play out like this was to drag the case out and to create drama. They make the situation appear dire and like there's no way out, and at the last minute, a miraculous solution pops up. I hate it. This really dampened my enthusiasm for the drama. Finally, why do we keep seeing lawyers from Lee and Saw on the opposing side? Specifically, Hyomin's ex. Is he the only lawyer on the planet? He's also dumbed down to hell and overconfident for no reason. He never gives the Yulim squad a real fight in court. He always has a singular argument that he's overconfident in when preparing for a case. And when the Yulim squad counter that, he's done. Nothing else in the tank. He just sits there. Also, he always seems to defend cases that puts him on the morally wrong side and the Yulim squad lawyers on the moral high ground. I also do not enjoy this because it makes it easy to hate on him, and it is also very, very boring. Nonetheless, Beyond the Bar was a highlight for me in 2025, a year that has been mostly filled with nothing. It's good, but it could have been great, considering how strong the first episode was. Overall, I will still rate it a 6.5 to 7 over 10.